Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's the reason I will never adopt? I, 30 female, have 3 bio siblings, 37 male, 36 male, 33 female, and then a sister, 31 female. My sister, who I will call Becky, her bio mom is my mom's cousin. The story of Becky getting adopted by my parents was basically her bio parents were addicts that just came one day out of the blue for a visit, then abandoned her at my house. She was 5 weeks old. For a few weeks, they tried to get my cousin's family to take her, but those assholes didn't want the shame of a baby with medical issues that was born out of wedlock. My parents fell in love with Becky, and the rest was history. Thankfully, all Becky really needed was love and a good home. She beat a lot of odds and leads a healthy, successful life. My parents never hid the fact that Becky was adopted. She is biracial, and we all learned about her heritage growing up. Everything was perfect till her parents reached out when she was 22 that they were clean and they wanted a relationship. In the space of a few months, she became a different person. It was like she hated us for taking her away from her biological parents. And as soon as she finished college and got the $20,000 check my parents gifted her, it's a startup we all got. She ghosted us and sent a letter to my parents telling them that if they ever tried to contact her again, she would file a restraining order. She got married and none of us even knew. Her mother passed away when she was 26, which led her father to relapse. Then he unfortunately died 8 months later. After Becky reached out, my parents welcomed her back with open arms, but I still can't. Which leads to now. Me and my husband recently had a baby via IVF after 6 years of trying, 5 natural. I brought my son to meet the family tonight, and after dinner, the girls of us were in the living room. I thought up how he was worth everything, explaining my struggles, and that I'm going to start naturally trying soon so he will have a sibling. Becky made a comment about why we didn't look into adoption since the world was already overpopulated, and I told her. I said, honestly, we thought about it, but after all the shit you pulled, I'm afraid you're the reason I will never adopt. Becky got up and yelled at me to get over it already. Then she left, and my mother said that I shouldn't have spoken to her like that. So in the end, I ended up early too. My siblings are on my side, but my parents are extremely mad. Also, I'd like to point out English is not my first language, and I am on mobile. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister she's the reason I will never adopt? And the top comment coming in with 25,000 upvotes. Not the asshole, because if her bio parents were still alive, she wouldn't even be around y'all right now. Next comment, 9,000 upvotes. Becky straight up acted like an adversary by threatening a restraining order. It's always sad to hear when adopted children raised in loving households choose their birth parents over the ones who raised them. Next comment, 5,000 upvotes. Becky also asked a question she shouldn't have if she wasn't prepared to hear the answer. She knew she caused a great deal of pain and anger. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why OP prefers not to adopt. I'm sure it was hard to hear. It's quite possible she's struggled with being adopted, especially considering she's biracial. But she chose to turn her back on her family, cut them out of her life entirely, and only came back because she lost her birth family. So Becky is using her family as backups and is upset that OP has a problem with that. Tough. Becky needs to own up to what she did, make amends, and get into therapy. OP might find some benefit in therapy as well. Another comment, 5,000 upvotes. I think the whole family needs to sit down and talk. Question number 1, What exactly did Becky's parents tell her? Because it sounds like two former drug addicts reached out to their bio kid and told her that her adopted parents stole her. Question number 2, are they correct? Adoption is complicated, and even worse for those of us who aren't adopted, there's probably a ton of shit that went on in the background in our first few months that we will never get a clear picture on because we can't remember it. OP says that according to her parents and memory, Becky's bio parents abandoned her and never came back until they were sober. Is that true? Is it possible they reached out earlier and were turned away? Is it possible that there was a custody battle and they lost? OP is not the asshole. What Becky did was completely shitty, but I do wonder about her headspace when she made the decision to cut off the parents who raised her. What reasoning and information did she have? My vote, not the asshole. Am I the asshole for asking my neighbor to move her craft room to a different bedroom? My husband and I live in an upstairs 3-bedroom flat, and the flat below us is the same layout. The house has been for sale for a while, and recently a woman bought it. It turns out she doesn't have any children, so I found it strange she bought a 3-bedroom house, but I soon found out it's because she runs a craft business from home and needs 2 bedrooms to run it. The problem is, unfortunately, she has decided to use the main bedroom, which is below us, as her main craft room. At first, it was fine as she hadn't fully moved in, but now it's driving me crazy. She's in that room almost all day, and I can hear her walking about and the faint noise of machines. I don't spend long in my bedroom during the day, but when I do go in, it just annoys me knowing she's there constantly. Like, why can't she have picked the smaller bedrooms since she knows the kids are at school all day? She always stops using her embroidery and sewing machines by 7 p.m., but she's told me she can sit up until 10 p.m. some nights, finishing off orders, which plays on my mind. I go to bed at 9 p.m. and I can't sleep for hours as I lie there listening for her every move. Just knowing she's awake and walking about drives me crazy, as I find it so selfish that someone would buy a flat and work from home. My husband says that he can barely hear a thing during the day and that I'm the one that needs to calm down. He also doesn't see the big deal about her using her house as she pleases. Yesterday, I finally had enough and went to her door. I told her how I was feeling about everything and how I can hear the faint noise of her machines. She apologized and invited me inside to show me her setup. All her machines are on some sort of anti-vibration padding to stop as much noise as possible, so she claims the noise should be minimal and that you need to expect some noise from neighbors. I told her I don't make any noise, and that's when things took a turn, as she said she can hear my kids running around and jumping off furniture all evening, but she would never dream of complaining because it's just one of those things when you share a building with other people. I left before I said anything else I regretted, and I thought that was the end of it. But my husband came home from working overnight and asked if I had said anything to the woman downstairs, as she was very cold and blunt with him when he said hello. I told him what happened, and he said I'm a massive asshole. I've spoken to a couple of my friends who think that I've handled this completely wrong, and I'm a bit of an asshole for it, but I don't see what else I could have done. So, am I the asshole for asking my neighbor to move her craft room to a different bedroom? Oh boy, these comments are really funny. Okay, top comment coming in with 41,000 upvotes. Quote unquote, I find it so selfish that someone would buy a flat and work from home. What? You are a massive asshole. She can do whatever she wants in her own home. Or would you rather she sat there in silence on the dole? You're the asshole. Next comment, 24,000 upvotes. Can we also acknowledge that OP doesn't even like the idea that their neighbor is awake and using their flat? I'm sorry, what? OP, if you have issues with the mere thought of people living in the space they pay for, maybe you should save up for a single family home so that you aren't disturbed by people being alive around you. Next comment, 18,000 upvotes. This line killed me, quote unquote. It just annoys me knowing she's there constantly. OP is bothered by this woman's presence in her own home. That is ridiculous. Next comment, 8,000 upvotes. I honestly think she might need therapy more than anything. Her obsession with this woman making any little bit of sound is not healthy. I'm not going to armchair diagnose, but it sounds a lot like me when I get really bad in an anxious spell. Any little stimulation sets me off. Next comment, 4,000 upvotes. Absolutely. But it is so important not to blame other people for just existing. People are allowed to exist. And my vote. This girl is the ultimate asshole. I mean, what? Like, the lady was doing everything she could to minimize the noise. My vote, she's the asshole. Let me know what you guys think.